Hello everyone, welcome back to the Looney Bin. My name is Looney and it's time to prep the oven because I'm here to give you a Looney theory that may or may not be true, but it's up to you to decide whether or not you agree or disagree with this theory. But I am excited to share this theory because as I was talking about it in my stream when I was discussing the recent One Piece chapter, One Piece 1127, I got really into this idea, this theory. Now, I'm not the one who necessarily came up with this theory by myself because there are several other people who share a very similar idea to this theory, but I do think that with chapter 1127 a lot of people are probably not believing that theory anymore. But allow me to suggest this idea that I do think that this theory is still plausible, and a lot of things that happen in 1127 of One Piece I think really do point to that. And this theory essentially is that the Straw Hats, the East Blue Five, have been teleported into Elbap, into this domain, I guess you can say, where there is someone who has a devil fruit ability that's essentially put them as the main characters of some sort of video game, right? Some sort of video game that he or they are specifically making with the Straw Hats as the main characters, as like party members. Right, so you're probably thinking, well, that does sound like a really loony and crazy theory. I will give you some evidence that points to the possibility of this being a good theory, but then at the end it will all be dependent on you whether or not you agree or disagree with it, and that's perfectly fine. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. I wind up taking another L on another theory. But there is a lot of things in chapter 1127 that, for me specifically, when I looked at it, it can lead to it. So I'm going to go over exactly more about this theory. The devil fruit. Is the devil fruit possible because it's a video game? I think it definitely is. And all the hints and all the evidence I have gathered that could point to this being a thing. So the first up, I guess we should answer is who do we think is the one who has this devil fruit ability? Who in the world could have this? Who in the world could be in charge of this? Now, my personal opinion is that it is Prince Loki. Right? Prince Loki is still a mysterious figure, and I think that Prince Loki has some sort of involvement with what the Straw Hats are getting involved with. Because remember, Prince Loki, for the most part, is a god of trickery. He does things that are, like a jester or like a trickster would do. Now, I know most people who know about Loki know about the MCU version of Loki. While I don't think Oda will use that, because I don't think he will, I'm not knowledgeable about like the actual Norse mythology of Loki. We just know that he's the god of trickery, and as we know, trickery could mean a lot of things. So I do think that Loki is the one who has his devil fruit ability, who is creating this video game that the Straw Hats are currently involved in, and I think that's the strongest possibility of who this person could be. So let's move on to, can this devil fruit be possible? This devil fruit where like he can create this video game format. Well, I cannot give you like a proper name for this devil fruit because I'm not that creative enough like Oda is, unfortunately. But I do think that Oda, if this is the case, definitely has some sort of name for it. Now, but how can this be possible? It's a video game. We are in the One Piece world. Video games don't exist in the One Piece world. That is not necessarily true. Remember, we just went through Egghead. So much technology is in there. So much technological advancement is in there. What's not to say there is not any sort of video game in there, right? What's not to say that, right? And I believe we saw something that almost resembled the video game as well, right? And casinos are technically a version of video games, just really, more gambling and anything like that, right? But it is very possible because this technology that existed in Egghead was not futuristic technology, but technology of the past, aka the Ancient Kingdom. That is what Egghead said. I mean, not Egghead, that is what Vegapunk said. Sorry, I got it confused. But yeah, and what we know about devil fruits is that they are formed from the desire of people. If you desire something, if you desire to do something, a devil fruit will be born that exists where you can do that, right? Literally, anyone from the Ancient Kingdom could have desired the idea of making their own video game as part of reality. The desire for that devil fruit could exist. A devil fruit could have formed from someone's desire back in the Ancient Kingdom when they had this type of technology. And we see this technology in Egghead for the most part. So it's very well possible that there could be a devil fruit ability where like actual video game mechanics or like just the type of video game we normally would see work in the story, such as JRPGs, even sandbox games could also exist. Legos, Lego video games. So it's like, I think the idea that a situation where it can't be a video game is false, because we had the technology of the Ancient Kingdom that could have brought upon the desire to actually create a video game in reality instead of just like on a screen. So I think that is why, for the most part, a video game devil fruit could still exist. We also had that big color spread where, when Nami and Usopp were playing like Super Smash Brothers, right? So it's not out of this world idea, because it can still exist. And it's also One Piece. Anything can happen in freaking One Piece, So that's why I think a video game devil fruit could exist. So now let's talk about the hints. Let's talk about like why I think they are literally transported into like this domain, or like this version of a fantasy world where they're playing a video game, or getting involved in video game mechanics. One of the biggest talking points of One Piece 1127 is that there's a lot of mistakes, a lot of errors with the art that a lot of people point to just Oda being, washed or something like that. I don't believe that's the case, because Oda still has editors, Oda still has assistants who will catch some of these things. This is all done intentionally by Oda. And how would that relate to essentially a video game? Think about it this way. Whenever you play a JRPG, right, you can do a lot of things in main menus, such as unequip, equip weapons, gear, and so on. We see in the chapter moments where Nami doesn't have a sword. Then she also has some weird transition of like, she has a circular belt, and then all of a sudden it's a square belt, changing gear. We see Luffy without a straw hat, but wears a Viking helmet. Where's Luffy's straw hat? Maybe Loki, decided to unequip the straw hat and give Luffy the Viking helmet. And he still believes, right? He still believes that he's still wearing the straw hat, but in reality, he's not. Similar in a lot of MMORPG games, you could be wearing like a Viking helmet, but you're equipped with like a straw hat, or equipped with another piece of gear, to just be appearance-wise. That could be a thing. That's a mechanic you see in Final Fantasy 14 online, So, like, all this stuff, like different Usopp bags, and like sometimes the sword appearance, sometimes Luffy's sword not being there, and all of a sudden he has a sword, and all of a sudden he has an axe, could literally be Loki equipping and unequipping weapons to these characters, right? The whole thing with Gear 4 and Gear 3, one of the bigger controversial stuff about the chapter. We won't know exactly if it's like an error or some sort until the official release comes out. But what if that's also part of like some sort of his devil fruit ability, Loki's devil fruit ability, I should say, where like maybe something crossed up in like the coding or something like that, like he didn't understand what was happening, and it got crossed up or something like that, because none of the characters really paid much attention to it. Right? Not even Luffy was, weirded out by it. And Zoro even had like sort of like a strange dialogue, but it's not too strange because he does, have, vice captain authority, or like vice captain dialogue, you should say. I'm not saying, because I know people are really upset about the whole vice captain situation. It's not me saying that Zoro is the vice captain. I'm just saying the dialogue there is about, Zoro being like sort of like a vice captain, where he's telling Luffy that, we should worry about where our ship is, and, we should worry about, our comrades, and that kind of stuff. So, that could be that thing, and I could just be that hint could just be something else. But I do think, like, all of these errors are intentional, and it's literally Loki constantly equipping and unequipping these attires, these weapons, the gear, because maybe he thinks some gear have better stats and others don't, right? It's very rare or unlikely that all of this are errors that Oda made unintentionally, because it's a lot. There's just so many errors in this chapter. It just seems unlikely that Oda missed, or like any of the editors or assistants missed. It definitely seems like he's doing this intentionally. Now, of course, we could find out later on that these errors were actually errors, but we won't know until essentially whenever the volume comes out and these mistakes were fixed, if that is the case. But let's say they are intentionally done, it could literally be similar to like how JRPGs or RPGs, where you could constantly equip and unequip different weapons and different stats, right? So clearly that would make sense if, the person like Loki, who is literally put them into this video game, could do that. And that's why we see these constant changes, and why we see sometimes a weapon missing and sometimes not. Another hint that it could be like a video game is like the Legos, right? None of the Straw Hats know what Legos are, because again, the way Nami trips and falls on like the Legos, she doesn't realize that those are Legos. She just calls them very bumpy. So it seems like Legos don't exist in the One Piece world, right? But they could have existed in the Ancient Kingdom, or it could have been an idea that was spawned from Loki himself, right? So what else do we know? What kind of video games do we know that revolve around building blocks? Minecraft, Roblox. Those type of games essentially allow you to build things with blocks. If Legos, and there's also Lego video games, are used as those building blocks, like how there's blocks in Minecraft, that would literally explain why not only is the giant village in Legos, but also the castle that the Straw Hats are in, because he created this castle with the intention, with this childlike wonder mind, like people would build stuff in Minecraft. So that's also another big hint that this could be some sort of video game devil fruit. And then we move on to essentially where we talk about, some of the giants will talk about the sun god, and some giants will talk about the bunny, the long ear god. I forgot what the bunny god is, right? These could literally be boss characters. They could literally be boss characters that Loki created for the party to defeat. And so far, they're doing a really good job, because whenever they beat the crap out of them, guess what happens? They somehow wind up, destroyed, defeated, and then, somehow they wind up in reality, because at the end of the day, those are still stuff created by Loki. Maybe the village is also in his domain, like the village could be like an NPC village, right? And one other thing is that we know Oda's a fan of Pokemon, right? We all know Oda's a fan of Pokemon because, I'm sure some of you are probably shocked by that, but I remember, like, in one of his author notes, he brought like a Rayquaza, like a noodle, like a slide thing where like you pour water and then noodles as well too, and then you could pick up and eat the noodles. He did like an author's note talking about how he brought that, right? In Pokemon, we have evolution, right? Digimon also has evolution. The cat evolved into a lion. There's that video game mechanic that Loki probably invented himself and put it into these boss characters. It really does fit, like Oda's putting all these video game mechanics into this castle area, and it's really I would probably say it's a really wonderful idea if he decides to put all these like really popular video game mechanics into this one domain or area where Loki is in charge, as if he's like a video game developer, or like, playing Roblox, where he's creating his video game and, people are playing in it, and he's using the Strides as like the main characters and the party, right? So it's all of this, from the evidence I provided, it's a possibility. I don't know how strong of a possibility this could be, but I do think that the idea that they could be transported into like this video game, or like this sort of like area or like domain where like it's literally Loki playing like some sort of video game, it's possible. We don't know exactly how old Loki is. We do know he's a prince, so that would mean that at least he will be like teenager age in giant years, so maybe like 86 or something, right? So it's possible, and we know teenagers love playing video games, especially, male teenagers love playing video games. Female teenagers also like playing video games, right? Regardless of whatever, Prince Loki is, teenagers love playing video games. And it's likely Prince Loki had this devil fruit since he was a kid, and he wanted to continue playing these games. So it's like, it would make total sense if Oda decided to make or give Loki some sort of video game devil fruit. And all these, errors that we are seeing could literally be Loki messing around with the gameplay, right? Messing around. And maybe the green fairy, maybe the drink that, the Strides drank could possibly also be, in a way, affecting, their, what they're seeing. So I think all of that could be a very strong possibility. And I think Chopper, at the end of the day, is going to reveal essentially what is happening, because I think out of all the characters, Chopper's the only one who didn't drink the green fairy because he's young. You know, he doesn't drink alcohol. I believe he's the only one who didn't drink it, so at least I think he's seeing everything properly. What the Straw Hats are seeing are probably something slightly different. Maybe it is part of the hallucination, but it's also part of Loki's devil fruit of him creating this video game where the Straw Hats are playing as the main party, as the main characters. And the designs are like, as the designs are very Elbaf-like, they can also be designs of like any kind of JRPG you could play. So that's why I think that the idea that they've been isekai into like a video game, not necessarily isekai into another world like a video game world, but like they're in an area where like Loki literally is putting them into a video game because of his devil fruit, because of some sort of video game devil fruit, is a strong possibility. It could be like some sort of creativity devil fruit, like you know how like Mario Maker is kind of like a creative mode where like you create your own levels and stuff like that. Maybe it's something like that. Maybe it's like some sort of devil fruit that allows Loki to create things. Literally, video games are created by the imagination of people, so it could be somewhat connected. Like I said, I can't give you like a proper name for this devil fruit, but I think this idea shouldn't be just pushed aside, because I think it's still a strong possibility. Could it happen? Sure. Will it happen? Maybe. I don't know. I'm not gonna be here and try very hard to like if this isn't a video game devil fruit, then it's bullshit or anything like that, because at the end of the day, this is Oda's story. He can do whatever he wants. But I do believe that this is a strong possibility and shouldn't be pushed aside. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully you enjoyed this video. And like I said, agree or disagree, that's perfectly fine. Let me know what you think, and maybe you have your own ideas about what exactly is happening, so let me know that too. So thank you so much, and I'll see you guys next time. All right, bye bye.